Welcome to Brutally Honest Talk Radio, where you will learn about an issue minus the BS. We don't always say what you want to hear, but what you need to hear about the issues of the day. Here's your host, Inger, along with Elmo, with his political insight and commentary.
Hi, this is Inger. I have with me Elmo, and this is Brutally Honest Talk Radio. How are you doing, Elmo?
I'm doing good. There's good things on the horizon I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday to you. How's your day going so far?
It's going good. It's good. What about yours?
It's busy already. Yeah. I start my day in the afternoon and it's been full. Lots of stuff to do, you know.
Wow. And I know the holiday season, like Christmas season and New Year's and all that sort of stuff doesn't help. Folks like to go ahead and wind up everything for the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess tonight we're talking about Biden's press conference, and then which happened just this evening, as a matter of fact. The Cleveland Indians fall victim to cancel culture. I don't know. We didn't see that one coming. And a person who decorated their house with Christmas lights got shamed. So that should be interesting. So wherever you like to start.
Okay, thank you. So, we're going to start with the Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
All right. So, anybody that knows baseball or is from Cleveland or is just up on American culture heard of the Cleveland Indians, just like you heard of the Yankees, the Oakland A's, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, because I'm not sure why, and this is one of the things that we can talk about, but they have agreed to get rid of the name Indians. So it's going to be called the Cleveland something else. They haven't decided yet. Not really a smooth transition because they don't know what the new name of the team is going to be. So heard this today, and I guess the first thing I'll say is who is this for? And I can tell you two groups is not for. One is it's not for Indian people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for people from India because they got their name from when Christopher Columbus came here and thought he hit the shores of India. And then up until 50 years ago, a few decades ago, most people called the indigenous people of this land Indians.
Right.
So people from India did not protest this. And even what we call Native Americans, all right, the Apaches, the Cherokee, the Chippewa, 90% of them are okay with Washington Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all catch that on an earlier podcast from just earlier this year. 90% of Native Americans surveyed are okay with the name Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposedly derogatory, but the first group in line, when you remove people from India and you remove Native Americans, the next person in line is white liberals, mostly white liberal women.
Exactly. So again, like and now, first of all, you said something that made sense. It's not a smooth transition. They went from the Washington Redskins to the Washington football team. Okay, like you said, if you're gonna launch this and you're trying to be so politically correct, the least you can do is have a business brain and say we're no longer going to be called the Washington Redskins. We're now going to be called the Washington, I don't know, corrupt politicians, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
But you have something that they can go to. And like you said, just like you just said a moment ago, the Native Americans aren't offended by it. They don't care. They weren't bothered by this. And it's like what is this all for? What's the end game here? It makes sense. Like you said, liberals, and they are just hell bent on, I guess, not being offended by anything, not offending anybody, that sort of thing. I just don't know what the end game is. I would like to know. I really would like to know.
Yeah,
Where
who
does this end?
knows? Who knows where this is gonna end? I know one
Yeah.
thing: when you start to go down a road like this, when you open a door, then it leads to other things that
Hmm.
people are going to vote or choose to be offended about.
Right. Right. And that's what it seems to be. All of this is, like, they say virtue signaling. I think that's all that is. Okay, who are you virtue signaling to? Because the
Mm,
people that you're doing it for didn't have a problem with it before. So
yeah,
who is this for? Who's the audience in all of
right.
this? you know.
Who is getting hurt by this?
Yeah.
I see football players, fans, employees, sports commentators. We've heard
Mhm.
this year a lot of sports commentators and other people try to have a comment about racial injustice. I've never
Yes.
heard any sports commentator on ESPN or anywhere else talk about the names of the Cleveland Indians or the Washington Redskins and how that needs to change.
Right.
But many of them are gonna be quiet anyway. Like I really don't think they care. But if they did care, then they're stepping on business toes.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
in a capitalist way. They're stepping on toes, so they were going to keep their mouths shut anyway. But yeah, like it's like you said, the Washington football team. Is there any name that could be more generic,
There you go.
more sterile? You know, a more sterile, neutered football team. Where while we just got jerseys on. We don't have colors, numbers, names. We don't have nothing. We don't have nothing yet. Like what was the rush was so urgent to get to that. Like, listen, we need to get rid of this name first, and then we'll worry about the new
Hmm.
name later.
Yeah, but like you said, but there's the business piece. So if
Yeah.
if I heard you correctly, there isn't any merchandise related to the Washington. There's not a keychain or a bumper sticker or anything like that. Even though this change, if I'm not mistaken, it took place, it was either during coronavirus or right
Mm,
before coronavirus, in March, because this change isn't super recent from what I understand.
mhm.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Sometime between the outbreak of the coronavirus and the George Floyd incident. Somewhere between
Okay.
there is
Okay.
when that's when I heard the survey with Native Americans about the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So again,
Yeah,
they're not thinking about the business side of it. And I
right,
don't know where they think their money is coming from. It comes from the fans and merchandising and licensing and the whole nine yards. And that's not happening if you don't have merchandising, if you don't have
right.
fans, because people are tired of this, and and folks aren't playing. So it goes back to, what is this all for? When is enough enough? You ask them, okay, when does it stop? When is enough enough? Where is your end line? Where is your end goal to say, okay, we're where we wanted to be. Now we can go on to something else.
You
And
can't even put up a border or an end on categories. Like this can transcend anything or everything.
yeah,
Like what I'm saying is you can't even stop it from being limited to football, from being limited to sports.
right.
It can go into anything. We've seen it go into music and go into
That's true.
film and all of this. And it's it is It's the dumbing down of America.
It truly is. It truly is. I mean, and how did we get here? How did we get to this place?
Whiners,
Yeah.
people whining. Just imagine what the world would be if starting tomorrow, every every child that was able to talk, so they're a year old, say from 1 to 4 years old, every child that was able to talk, your not your number one purpose in life, but it was mandatory that you appease them and gave them everything they asked for.
Hmm.
If you did that to a child, what would that do to the child?
Right.
What would that do to the family? What would that do to the future? Which the children are supposed to grow up and take over the future.
Hmm.
So, you know what I'm saying? Every
Yeah.
every 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, every time they say they want a lollipop, ice cream, they want to play, they don't
Right.
want to do anything, and they're whining. They're whining about everything. And the way that you deal with that is you just give them whatever they want, you know.
Yeah. And
One thing you're gonna do is you're gonna make them sick.
true. True. You're handicapping them. Is what you're doing.
And the definition of spoiled is someone who is getting their way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There are no spoiled children, and spoiling is what happens to them and turns them rotten. So when you say spoiled rotten, like rotten is the end result.
Mm-hmm. That's
Now,
true.
I mean, on the other hand, you got children that you never give them anything, they become bitter. I guess that's the other extreme. And you don't want that either.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want
Mm-hmm.
that either. But you gotta figure out what is going to be the result of this. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? How's it going to make them or anything better? You don't want to just give a whiner whatever they're whining about so they'll stop whining.
Exactly.
That's not a
Exactly.
reason. That's not a reason.
It's not. And like you said, it's I was talking to a friend at church, and he's an EMT, and we were talking back and forth and talking about cause effect, and people always link cause effect, but they don't come back to the result. So if, like you were just saying, if you constantly give the child what they want, they'll be spoiled rotten. Well, why are they spoiled rotten? Well, you give them everything they want, like you said, they get spoiled, and the result is they're rotten and they cannot handle life once it's time for them to be an adult. They're not accustomed to hearing the word no. So that'll be the result. And here is where we are. They figure they're entitled to everything, they know everything, and they can't get past it. So,
Yeah.
this is
And the
the cause
expectation
effect.
changes.
Hmm.
Like, then when they do hear no, they have a freaking nervous breakdown.
They every time.
How dare you? Do you remember when Saddam Hussein was brought to justice and he had to appear before the tribunal?
Hmm.
He had been a dictator and had been in charge so long that he's standing there in the courtroom talking to the judges, go, how dare you talk to me like that? I put you
Right.
where you are. Don't you
Right.
know I could take your power away?
Hmm.
And his life was literally being threatened.
Yeah,
If
that's true.
I mean, if he was found guilty of charges,
Hmm.
that was going to be
That
the
was gonna.
punishment, was death. And him knowing that, he's so pompous and used to get in his way that he's talking down to the judges, somebody that he really was having to
Was
answer to.
yes, and yes, and the lack of it in you talking and speaking of that brings up there's a lack of accountability, and when there is no accountability, that's when a lot of the issues happen.
Yeah,
And Saddam Hussein and spoiled kids, they're not accountable to anybody, and so they figure they
right.
can do what
Right.
they want to do when they want to do it, because who's going to say anything? There are no consequences to it, that sort of thing. So, and coming back to the Cleveland Indians, this cancel culture, that is the root of this cancel culture. One, envy, obviously, but also this. I'm not accountable to anybody, but you're accountable to me. I want this to happen the way I want it to. I don't like the word no, and I'm going to keep going forward. That is exactly what this is.
And you know what? If honestly, not even the majority, just
Mhm.
like 40% of Native Americans from multiple tribes were complaining, then maybe I would be a little sensitive or understanding to it.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like, would that be the only response or the only goal to change it? How about, I mean, you could say this is wrong, but I'm just saying, like, there's only one thing we want. We really don't care about sports. We don't care about this team. We just want this to go away. Instead of
Right.
somebody saying, well, maybe you could take a proceed of the profits and put it toward the well, let's see. Do they say Indian reservations still, or is that racist?
Right.
You got to say Native
Right.
American reservations. Yeah,
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
right. I think it's still Indian reservations, but don't give them any ideas.
Oh no.
you know.
I mean, like you have to, I don't know. Like, you have to come to the casino and spend money, a certain amount of money or a certain number of times a year, like something. Like, let
Right.
let us get some of the merchandise. You're putting our people on your t-shirts and making
Mhm.
money off of it. I mean, it's not my fight. So
Right.
I'm not asking for that. I'm just
Mhm.
saying that we know that it's not Native Americans who are complaining about this.
Exactly. Exactly.
So whatever else they want is not going to be for Native Americans.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, it's
So
true. And like you said, if they really want to do something, then go onto the Native American or Indian reservations and talk about the alcoholism issue, because I know that's the
yeah,
thing. Domestic violence, it's in the larger population. I'm sure it's in that population as well. Eating healthy, being healthier, that sort of thing. If they truly want to do something about it, but the ones that are
yeah,
complaining and
right.
whining about it don't really want to do anything about it.
And
It's
and the
virtue.
suicide rate among Native Americans
Right.
since COVID-19 broke out has been so high. Like, I don't remember what it was, like 1%
Oh,
of all
wow.
Native Americans were killing themselves.
Oh my goodness.
Right? I mean, this is
Wow.
what it was. I'm going back, this is December, so this is going back like to the
Mhm.
to the summer and the late spring. So, yeah, which is more devastating to that race? People taking their own lives, or a slang word for Native Americans being the name of a team?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's the deeper issue here? What's are we truly trying to solve a problem, or we're just window dressing just
Hmm.
to make ourselves, feel better? That's a very good point. Interesting. Well, did you want to talk about Biden's press
I
conference?
sure do.
Oh, and
So,
and I didn't hear it. I didn't listen to it or anything. So,
mm,
fill me in on what he said or what the gist
yeah,
of it was.
I guess half of what I had to say is not even what he said, but just a presentation. But a few things about it. He was saying, because the Electoral College officially claimed him as the president and said that he got 305 electoral votes.
Okay.
We know that on election day they said that he was like 265 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, but by the end of the day on election day, he hadn't gotten enough votes,
Right.
and Trump, his number really hasn't changed. They said 232.
Okay.
I think that's what it was a few weeks ago. So
Okay.
he was saying that and saying the same kind of talk and thing about being, I want to be everyone's president and bring the whole country together and heal us, and that kind of thing. When we began in the battle for the soul of this nation, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of talk. So
Okay.
few things about it. Um, Man, I wish we had more time. But he said there are 155 million people who voted in this election, more people than have ever voted in any election in history. So I'm listening to that and
Mhm.
I'm thinking, well, 340 million people in the country, and 155 million of them voted. You remove the children, you remove the people that
Mhm.
are under 18 years old, you probably have at least 270 or 280 million people
Okay.
who, if you're over 18, to me, that's an eligible voter.
Right. Right.
I mean, I don't know why anyone would not be able to vote and they're over 18 unless they're in prison. So
Okay. Mhm.
there's still a lot of people that didn't vote, that don't care. And then, there's kind of a campaign. There has been a campaign to draw people out, to get them to come out and vote. And I think that this election, a lot of people voted that haven't voted in a long time or really didn't care. And so
Okay.
they could have been swayed, maybe easily swayed to one side or the other, which is
Mhm.
also a bad thing or a dangerous thing.
Mhm.
Because anytime someone votes for a candidate, especially a presidential candidate, you want them to be able to tell you three reasons or three substantial reasons why
Mhm.
they pick that person.
Definitely. Definitely. Mhm.
Yeah. So to me, that's still a low number. I mean, I don't think it's aiming too high to want 250 million people to vote in every presidential election. But let's put things in order. Become informed.
Yes.
Educate yourself. Try
Mm.
try to be an independent thinker. I mean, even
Right.
even a person who's uneducated and ignorant, they would probably agree that to call yourself a follower is not something you would want to pick over being an independent thinker or being some
Right.
person that thinks for yourself. So to me, that just seems like a direction that a person would want to go in,
You, mhm. Mhm.
especially just against tradition, against
Exactly.
tradition.
Exactly. Yeah. Um. Hmm. So I guess it was his official acceptance, even though there's
Yeah.
still some um I don't want to say confusion. There's still some question as to the validity of it until January 6th,
Mm,
that the state legislatures can convene and give direction to the electors as to how they're supposed to, I guess, not vote, but how they're who they're supposed to represent, that sort of thing. I think there's still
mm,
some outstanding questions as to how that's done, and constitutionally I think it can be done. And if it can be done, then that matches with the Constitution. Let me step back for a minute to kind of make all of this make sense. Technically, if the Supreme Court hands down a decision, that decision can be overturned by Congress, and that lines up or is consistent with what's going on now. The Supreme Court refused to hear this particular case. So, being that it's an election and there are different states involved, then this can get kicked back down to the legislatures of these different states, and these different legislators can then decide what to do with the electors. So, having said that, I think January 6th is the drop dead date for all of this to happen if they were going to do something different.
mhm.
So, with that, the state legislatures can decide ultimately what's going to happen. And then once they do, then that goes back to Congress. I think. No, no, it does not. Once the state legislatures decide to, yeah, it does. Once the state legislatures decide to direct their electors and what they're going to do, then it goes back to Congress, and Congress does the final count. And I think Congress has the final count on January the 6th. I think that's how it goes. So, that being said, Joe Biden has, I guess, accepted the president-elect because of the certification, even though there is still time for something else to be done constitutionally, to, I guess, to help President Trump. So it still can be done. So, yeah, there is still a lot going on. If I were Biden, I don't think I'd do anything until January 7th, honestly. I
Mhm.
think all of this is premature, from the press deciding that he's won on and calling states prior to states even starting voting or finishing voting. They're calling it, as if they select the president instead of the voters. All the way to, let's get these issues resolved with the legal counts and the legal votes and all that sort of stuff, because that's still outstanding. Um, all the way to, folks they feel like they're not being heard. They feel like they're not being heard. And I think that's where the problem lies. They want to be heard. They feel there's too much going on for them not to be, for somebody not to at least investigate and ask the questions. It's just too much, too many variables, too much going on for
Well,
folks not to.
let me tell you what I would like to see, like
Hmm.
next year, or
Yeah.
if January and February come and everything is still going along the same path and not been overturned. And first of all, thank you. You just contribute a lot of information and knowledge about this. What you just explained is not something that I knew or that I would be able
Okay.
to tell people about,
Hmm.
and that's good. That's valuable information. I
Thanks.
don't want the Republicans to be like the Democrats during the impeachment hearings,
Okay.
where they
Hmm.
didn't have anything. There
Right.
has to be a convening. There has to be a hearing if they call for it to happen. If there's a dispute, but I
Hmm.
want there to really be something. In other words, next year in February, March, May, wherever it is, if there's evidence, I'm talking about hard, unequivocal, undisputable evidence
Hmm.
that Trump won,
Hmm.
and enough to enough, that the best lawyers in America honestly would look at that and believe that it would work and not be overturned,
Right.
then come out. In other words, like, while they're working together, while the people that are investigating this, trying to build a case, trying to get evidence together, do that behind closed doors, because I don't want like referring back to children again, like a child coming to me, they got an assignment they're working on, and it's 20 questions they need to do, and when they get to question 4, they come to me and say, "Hey, I got 4 done." And then they go back and they come back, "Hey, I'm on number 9 now. I'm getting even closer." It's like, okay, look, keep on it, stay on it until you're
Yeah.
finished,
Yeah.
because it really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just I don't want to hear like failed attempts or see failed attempts, because there's not enough to jump
Mhm.
at this thing. So I don't want to see people fight losing battles. So if the
Right.
smart, intelligent people that are involved in this really believe that it's going to lead to something, then pursue it and keep going. And then I don't care if Biden's been in there 6 months or been in there a year. If there is empirical evidence that he lost, or I mean, the Electoral College said 305, but I guess I don't know if Biden reached, or if Electoral College counted 270 votes for him first. They got to
Okay.
him or his number first, and
Okay.
then before Trump's number got up there,
Mm-hmm.
because the bottom line, whatever fraud there may have been, and
Hmm.
whatever happens, Trump needs 270.
Right.
So first, let's find that. Let's get that
Mhm.
and bridge the gap. So that's kind of where I'm going and what I want to see going into next year.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. And like you say, if after everything is said and done, if it is incorrect and Biden is not legitimately the president, then like you said, something needs to be done. And then
Yes.
And then if he is, then we'll go forward with it. We just want it to be legitimate, and then we have to work on rooting this out so it does not happen again.
Absolutely. That to me,
Yeah,
that's half of the battle.
that's true.
That's half
That's
of it because
that's
I
very
don't
true.
I don't want. We will be weaving a weak system if this is happening every 4 years, or it gets worse every 4 years, because we will lose the trust of the people. And
Yes.
some people are bitter and they vote for someone, and some people, the first thing they say is that it was stolen, and they're
Hmm.
telling their kids this, they're teaching their children, and then they're coming up and they're either not believing in the system, or they're believing that one side is corrupt and cheating and the other side is not, which someone getting elected, that really has nothing to do with the candidate. They're not counting the votes or putting it together.
Right.
And
That's
by
yeah.
the way, winning an election is not an accomplishment. I just
Right.
want to, and that's going to lead into something else that we'll talk about. But a couple of the things about Biden and what he did, what he said. He made a statement: the will of the people prevailed.
Okay.
Well, the will of the majority of the people, it's the will of the people that they voted.
Hmm.
So it's important that people vote and their votes get counted. So
Yes.
if you say the will of the people, that sounds like everybody wanted him to be elected, and
Right.
we just know that that's not true. All right, and then a couple of the quick things I'll say.
Yeah.
He was clearly reading the entire time, and I say that because his eyes were fixed on the same
Mm.
thing. And
Huh.
like he would turn his head, but his eyes like
Yeah.
stayed at the same place. Like he was like there was nothing off the top of his head that he said. Whereas when Trump got elected, his acceptance speech, like later, it was either later that night or the next day. They usually have the room filled with people, and
Yes.
they come out to make a statement. Trump was like, I was raised by two great people, my mother and father. They're both gone now. Great people. I was fortunate enough to have them. And I want to thank my campaign manager who ran a great campaign. And the whole thing, I mean, Trump has been a public speaker for decades.
Yes.
And so the whole thing was off the top of his head. And the whole time, Trump is looking down, he's looking over, he's calling out
Mm.
people in the room that he's just seeing for the first time. Oh, hey,
Wow.
what's up? Yeah, we did it. And look, Biden did this thing, and I'd never heard
Hmm.
any voices. I don't think there were any people in the room with him.
Wait, nobody, no cheering or no
No.
applause or.
I want to challenge anyone. If they want to re-record this thing and then turn up the volume, like equalize the levels, if you're nice with that and you know how to, balance it out, and then send it to us, please. If you hear anything, Stephanopoulos, he commented
Mhm.
on it, but that was after, as he was walking away, like but he's not there with them. So look, when he was done, the whole thing was
Hmm.
about 15 minutes. The camera backed up. You didn't see anyone else in there. So no questions. This isn't a press conference. I don't really know what to call it, because he
Oh,
didn't answer any questions. There was no one there to ask a question.
wow.
His wife walked out at the end of it, and then she grabbed his hand and led him off stage the way you lead a child. Like she
Wow.
was walking a little ahead of him. Now, there's a way that a man will grab a woman's hand. Like we'll
Mhm.
take our right hand, you know what I'm saying, and hold
Mhm.
it like this.
Mhm.
And so she let him do that. Like, you know, like this, like
Yeah.
with the way a
Mhm.
woman was hold a man's hand. But
Yeah.
she was walking ahead of him. And then he was kind of, like a guy who just woke up. I'm just being serious, y'all.
Really?
Like, like leading him back to bed. Like, you got out again. You've been sleepwalking. And then, just kind of let him off
Shuffling?
stage.
Really?
Just let, and yeah, and that was it. That was it. His wife came out. She's a doctor, by the way. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
then she gave him a hug, and they walked. You know, I was so anyway. And then he's obviously sick. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
dealing with some kind of congestion because 10 minutes. I'm sorry, 10 seconds didn't go by without him coughing or clearing his throat.
Really?
Like every 10 seconds, he just said, or, he had to like cough a couple times. And, a couple times he said, excuse me. But I mean, like every 10 seconds, like some congestion that he couldn't get up. And I mean, of course I want him to get well, but I'm just saying
Right.
that was kind of a distraction that kind of took away from his message or his presentation.
Interesting. Okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, that he didn't project strength. Let's put it that way.
Well, didn't project honesty or something
Mm,
original, or like,
okay.
we still don't know who he is. We still know who he is
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
because when someone is clearly reading from something, there's
Mm-hmm.
speculation whether or not they even wrote it.
That's true.
But if someone
That's
is
true.
speaking, off the top of their head, or I mean, like he did a better presentation when he was debating Trump. At least he walked out there, he looked at Trump, he said, "Hey, what's up, man?" We know that
Yeah.
wasn't written. I mean, I don't think it was. But so
Interesting.
so anyway,
Wow.
yeah, I know you didn't see it, but did you have a question or another comment about that?
That's interesting perception because I didn't hear it or see it. And I know sometimes I rarely
Oh yeah,
see
if
it.
you
Mm-hmm.
just listen to I mean, it's recorded and over and done with now, but if you just
Yeah.
listen to the audio, you'll see 10 seconds don't go by without him ever coughing or clearing his throat. And of course, visually, you would have to see it to see that
Mm-hmm.
he was reading, he was reading something. And I think that goes back to his memory issues and his mind issues,
Mm-hmm.
of just not being able to. I mean, look, like we do when we do this show, we got a few topics,
Right.
and then we talk about it. We don't have like paragraphs like written out or whatever,
Right.
because we
Mhm.
know what we want to talk about. It's like,
Exactly.
here are the topics, now go. But if you don't have
Mhm.
anything to say, then you need that,
That's
you
true.
know.
You need that guidance every step of the way. And even if I've done newsletters and speeches for elected representatives, and they, when someone does it as a writer, you want it to sound like them. So you need to get maybe some bullet points or something from them to say, okay, kind of where's your head at? You want to tease it out of them and then put it into words that they're going to speak. And even when I wrote the speeches for these elected representatives, I said, this is just, I'll write it word for word, but you go off and you say what you feel you need to say. I'd even go to some points, say, these are the bullet points like we
Yeah,
do. Like I said,
right,
these are the bullet points, but you fill in the blank. I'll do the bullet points just to so you don't get off on the rabbit trail.
right.
But for him as president of the United States, I question if he even gave him the bullet points. And two, if you're really feeling something, like you said earlier,
Mhm.
one, you might not even need it. But two, if you do need it, you know what you're going to say
Yeah,
because it's there. Like you said, you have it on your heart to say, and it's there. You don't need to read from a teleprompter from that. And number three, like you said about Donald Trump, he's done public speaking. As a public speaker, you're going to let your eyes roam because if there are people in the room, you want to make eye contact with those people, even though there might be a teleprompter there. So the presentation is completely off.
do you remember
Wow.
he was someplace, I think it was outside
Hmm.
at a rally or something, and he had his wife on one side and his sister on the other.
Uh huh. Uh
And
huh.
then he said, "I got my lovely wife with me," and he turned to his sister and hugged her. But like, oh, I'm sorry, here she is. Like,
Oh,
yeah, I make
yeah.
that mistake all the time.
Like, whoa.
No.
Wow.
I guess if they
Yeah.
resemble each other, you could do that. But he forgot. Anyway, I'm just asking if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember
Uh,
that. I
Yo,
remember
and
that.
I wanna go back to this thing because we mentioned on our last show we found out about him and Kamala being Person of the Year.
Yes. Hmm.
Time Magazine,
Hmm.
and I've been thinking about that since, and I'm just imagining like what was Kamala's reaction when she got the phone call about this? Like she had to be surprised. She's like, "What? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? Oh, wait a minute. Joe ain't gonna believe this. Let me call Joe. Hey, Joe, they made you and me the Person of the Year." And then Joe is like, "Person of the Year? What is that?" But no accomplishments. This it's probably safe to say this is the first time in history, or since
Mhm.
the history of Time magazine, that someone, first of all, a hybrid Person of the Year is two people. I know
Right.
that's the
Hmm.
first,
Hmm.
and then also for a president to be Person of the Year, they haven't even been sworn in yet.
Right.
All right,
Right.
but this is what I was going to say. Out of all the people that, and I don't know who all the nominees were by Time Magazine, but I know one of them was George
Seven.
Floyd. Okay,
Okay.
they had the cover of Time Magazine with his picture on it ready. Like he was being considered as a nominee. Like I've
Okay.
had subscriptions to GQ magazine,
Hmm.
and there's like two versions floating around sometimes.
Okay.
With two different people. Like it's the same magazine,
Hmm.
right?
Two
But
different
they'll
covers.
yeah, they do photo shoots and stuff. Right. It's
Okay.
like two different covers depending on what store you go to or part of the country.
Gotcha. Hmm.
So they had, I'm talking about, with the template on it, with the band, the red band, the square,
Hmm.
and the name of the magazine like laid on top. So he was one of the people that were being considered as Person
Okay.
of the Year. And we don't have to go into Floyd. I mean, rest in peace. I'm very sorry what happened. I'm thinking Person of the Year is because of the things that you've done, and
Right.
understand that the recording of the Floyd video that set off a lot of protests and rioting,
Hmm.
and I guess Time Magazine feels like that led to something good. By him being a victim, that led to something good.
Good. Hmm.
But this is the other thing, or last thing I'll say about Time Magazine. Time Magazine apparently feels that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are better at being Person of the Year than Fauci.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Because a year ago, I never heard of Fauci. Okay,
Hmm.
this was Fauci's year. I mean, he was the man. And I heard Michael Savage talking about Fauci. He obviously doesn't like him. I don't know if that's a Jewish New Yorker thing, talking about the little man from the Bronx. And he said Fauci, he's not a scientist. He's a sorcerer.
Oh.
You know, it's like you can't be a scientist and you're making television appearances 2 or 3 times a day. That's not a scientist. Well, actually, he probably has a team that answers to him that he's working over, and he's been a scientist for decades. All right. So
Yes.
he's a very
Right.
knowledgeable guy. He's obviously been doing a lot of research, and he was already the head over something for him to be asked by the president to advise him, and to come on television earlier this year when they were speaking to the whole country, when quarantining was really being implemented,
Hmm.
and he would let Fauci or Pence speak for 5 minutes and advising the country.
That's right.
So so I mean, like Fauci is less qualified. He's done less to help people this year
Hmm.
than Kamala and Joe.
And that, yeah, yeah. And they put them, like you said, at least he's done something, be it
Yeah,
good or bad. He's done something. And all
right,
they did, like you said earlier, getting elected is not an accomplishment. It
right.
just is not.
But I'm learning. I'm learning. I learned when Obama got elected, and I learned when Biden got elected. So when Obama got elected, I learned that I'm qualified to be president because I'm black, and I learned that Biden is qualified to be president because he's not Trump. So I'm
Ah,
qualified, in two ways.
hey.
You could run a campaign on that. Apparently, I'm not Trump. Vote for me. And
There you go.
look
There
how
you
far you can
go.
get.
It's a
You know.
campaign. And what about you had someone got what is it for having Christmas decorations up? They got shamed. What
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that
They got sent a
about?
letter from a neighbor because they had Christmas lights up. This is in the Twin Cities or just outside of Twin Cities. So I guess they're talking about Minneapolis, in
Mhm.
Minnesota. And so I'll read some of this to you. Uh, there's a family, there's a house. They have Christmas lights outside the house, trimming the
Okay.
house,
Okay.
like at least 1 million people do.
Hmm.
So the name of this article says letter allegedly sent to suburban resident claims Christmas lights are harmful and a reminder of systemic biases. So
Oh, a
check this
Christmas light? Okay.
check this. So St. Anthony resident received a letter on Monday, chastised her for Christmas lights. Letter states that the twinkling, colorful lights are a reminder of the division that runs through our country. Right,
Okay.
and they actually this is they typed this up and printed it out, so they have this also. This person posted on Facebook, so they
Okay.
actually made a letter that they printed out. This was an email, so I'm just going to read straight from the letter here. Right, this says, couldn't help but notice your Christmas light display during these unprecedented I'm sorry. During these unprecedented times, we have all experienced challenges which casual words just don't describe what we're feeling. The letters are really small. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna make this
Okay.
just a little bit bigger. All right, here we go. All right, just don't describe what we're feeling. The idea of twinkling colorful lights are a reminder of divisions that continue to run through our society, a reminder of systemic biases against our neighbors who don't celebrate Christmas or who can't afford to put up lights of their own. I'm
Okay.
half done. It's not much more, so I'm gonna finish and then we can go in on it. We must do the work of educating ourselves about the harmful impact an outward facing display like yours can have. I challenge you to respect the dignity of all people while striving to learn from differences, ideas, and opinions of our neighbors. We must come together collectively and challenge these institutional inequities. St. Anthony is a community welcoming of all people, and we must demand better for ourselves. That's the end of the letter.
Wow. Okay, so they're triggered by Christmas lights. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Well,
Wow.
a couple things I'll say.
Wow.
One is that no one would have even thought of writing a letter like this 10 years ago,
Right.
whether they
It's
knew
true.
it was going to get on the news or Facebook or anything.
Mhm.
People just weren't talking like the, other stuff people are complaining about. I'm talking about Christmas lights. Every year people do this. I don't care if you live in Atlanta where there's no snow or where you are. People do this. So when I first heard this story, I'm thinking, what is it that's most offensive to them? Is it the twinkling of the lights and the illuminating, the brightness of it, or is
Mhm.
it that the lights are different colors? You know, and then I read the article and I went in on it, and they were specific. They said because the different colors. I guess all our Christmas lights, they should be all red or all yellow or all green. This person is saying because the lights are different colors, that illuminates different races and how people are discriminating this is an adult that does.
Wow.
This isn't anything new. At what point did you start seeing Christmas lights every year? At the
Hmm.
same time, they're saying,
And
well,
yeah.
everybody can't afford lights. And listen, they show a picture of the house. It looks like they're in a nice neighborhood in
Hmm.
the suburbs. And
Okay.
it's not, every neighborhood has a crazy family where they got Santa and the sleigh and elves, and
Mhm.
their light bill is going to be $400, and
Right.
people come from all around, and they're recording it, and it's like a contest. This isn't anything like that, Inger. This is a square of different colored lights going around, the edge of the house.
Wow. I'm kind of speechless. I mean, I don't. But
Oh, look at this. Look at this. This was on Facebook. I'm seeing now there's a comment from them at the top of this article. The person who got the letter, they said, "Wow, my neighbors and I got these in the mail." So they're like
wow.
distributing to everybody. My neighbors and I got these in the mail. We got some wackos around here. Time to move.
That says it all. They really do. I mean, I- where how, where do you even start with that? I mean, they're looking at their neighbors' lights and they take it upon themselves to go through all this to to connect the lights with racists and being offended. And I mean, how joyless must you be?
Yeah, right, right. What kind of a what? And listen, I've been unemployed. I've been poor or struggling, and I always treat people right.
Hmm.
I never had this kind of dialogue. Like when your world is caving in on you to the point where you hate people that are celebrating. Like, I don't have any joy. I don't have any light in me. Why can't you be like me?
Yeah,
I mean, misery really loves company.
it, that is perfect. That is
Um,
perfect.
but look, I wanna make a comment since we're talking about this. It's making me think about the Grinch. The Grinch that stole Christmas.
Hmm.
All right. And I just want to put this in at this point, but I was thinking about it uh like earlier this year. Everybody grew up seeing this. Most people saw it as a kid, and it's just a great story. And I'm just trying to break this down real quick. Like the Grinch represents the devil,
Hmm.
okay?
Hmm.
And the film went into this more where he was shamed because he was like a freak, looking the way that he looked. But he's a guy, he lives alone on a mountaintop by himself with little Max, the dog, who he's torturing. His dog wants to leave him, but he won't ever let him off the chain, won't ever
Right.
let him off the leash. But basically, the Grinch, he goes around stealing everybody's gifts, breaking
Hmm.
into their home. He doesn't want the gifts for himself. He
Right.
just wants to take it away from them, right?
Yes.
Just a bitter person. Then he's getting up there, and then on Christmas morning, with his spyglass or binoculars or whatever, he's looking out. And now I'll make everybody miserable. I'll make
Right.
everybody like me. I took away Christmas, the Grinch who stole Christmas. So when he looks down into the valley and looks down into Whoville, what he sees is everybody gets up on Christmas and they come out and they're celebrating anyway. They're celebrating, they're singing, they're dancing, and they have nothing. Everything was
Mhm.
stolen. They noticed that all their stuff was gone. So, like, basically, the Grinch was trying to steal their joy.
Yeah.
But it's a great message that it's not about material things or about toys or things that you get. So he couldn't understand. It's like, why are they singing?
Why are they still happy and joyful?
Right? I
Hmm.
don't understand. I thought that that's what Christmas was about. I took all this away from him, and they're singing anyway. And then when he saw that, that changed him. And they
Right.
showed the thing where his heart grew twice the size it was or whatever, and then he
Yeah.
went down and enjoyed them. joined them. You know what I mean? So I know they didn't mention Jesus or God or anything in the cartoon, but it's about the meaning of Christmas
Mm-hmm.
and about like we're talking about, or you said this is a joyless person.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what happened to this person, if they had, a relative close to them that died in December a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to send out a letter saying, hey, I'm hurting, can you include me in whatever you're doing, or I don't have a family, whatever it is, like
Yeah.
that would be too embarrassing to them. I don't know. So instead, let me climb up on this high horse. and
Right.
I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
At all. At all. It's beyond the pale. It is beyond the pale. Oh my goodness. And on that note, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Sure. Sure. Right. My thought today is about the vaccine, or the vaccines that are coming out.
Okay.
And this is controversial. And I wasn't going to say her name, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway, because it's already out there. But Bevelin, this is somebody who I'm following on YouTube, and she drops a lot of knowledge and a lot of truth and knowledgeable things. So she did a video recently where she was saying, yeah, she talking about a lot of stuff. She brought up the vaccine, and she said, if y'all are stupid enough to take the vaccine, then you're stupid enough to take the mark of the beast when they try to give that to you. So it's like, look, I'm gonna take one of the vaccines,
Mm-hmm.
and out of if it does have a numeric code or whatever, or a 3-digit code, out of
Mm-hmm.
999 possible numbers, they don't have to pick that one. So
Right.
that alone should be suspicious if somebody tries to do that. But just to kind of narrow down my final comment here, some people have said, like, what do they call it, like a speed virus or a whirlwind? Where they said they came up with it real fast, came up with it too
Yeah.
fast. Like, it's
Yeah.
some word that they used. But to the people that think that the pharmaceutical companies, scientists, they're sitting around, twiddling their thumbs, or whatever you want to fill in the blank with, they're just sitting around, wasting time, that they just popped up with this all of a sudden. It just came up with it out of nowhere, and it's too fast. Okay, if you believe that, you tell us how long you think it should take.
Mm-hmm.
What length of time should pass to where you
Okay.
will say it hasn't been too quick, whether that's
Gotcha.
12 months, 18 months, or whatever it is. All
Mm-hmm.
right. If you really believe that, I know you've been following the studies of medicines and how long they research stuff. So that's my challenge, my question to you. And Ingrid will give you the email address in the outro. But if you're not just talking stuff and just talking and saying it's too fast, and if that's what you don't trust, they came up with it too fast, then what's a good length of time to come up with, or a minimum amount of time to come up with a vaccine, if that's how you feel?
That is a very good question. That is a very good question. And on that note, thank you for listening to this episode of Brutally Honest Talk Radio. Leave a review for us wherever you listen to this podcast. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and also hit the notification button so you'll know when we upload any new episodes. Again, thank you for being with us on this episode, and we will talk to you next time. Have a great one.
Take care, everybody. Please stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to Brutally Honest Talk Radio. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out at bruthonest@gmail.com. That's BRUT, honestradio@gmail.com.